wanted to do was make a short video on whether you need to have your cant squared or not. That's all I wanted to do. Got all the video shot, got it edited, got it ready to upload, and then a couple of realizations hit me. Too late, of course, but what I ended up realizing was there's up to 6 different ways you can square a cant. So what I want to do is go through the different ways to square or set your log up to be squared. So here we go. Okay, we've cut our second face, and let's throw the square on here. And what you're going to find is that it is as close to perfect as you're going to want to get. It could be more perfect, but again, for what we're doing, it is close to enough to me, and I'd be very happy with this. But again, this is what I would call my least favorite method of squaring. Maybe not the least, but it's my second most favorite. The only good part about this is it's the most convenient method. You're relying on your backstops, but again, with the backstops, you've got to be very careful and make sure that they are perfectly square to your bunk also. And if your particular mill allows you to make adjustments, you really need to make them as square as possible. So we do have a square edge on here, and what we're going to do now is we'll rotate the log, or cant now, 90 degrees again, make another cut, and matter of fact, I think we're going to rotate it 180 degrees, and we're going to use the bunk squaring method and take it from there. Hang on. Okay, we have cut 2 faces on this log, cant, and as I say, the method I used was my second to favorite method. And so let's put the square on here, which theoretically, if the 2 surfaces are perfectly square, we should be square here. I don't know if you can see it, we're not. We're close, but again, no cigar. So what we need to do in order to get this surface up here, on the top here, squared to this face here, we've got to rotate the log a little bit more. So let me see if I can do that without causing a major problem here. And you probably have noticed that I'm using my framing square. So I know you thought I didn't have one, but I do. You know, I think I may have found what our problem is. Or maybe not. Yeah, there's a little bit of sawdust and bark and stuff underneath this one bunk. So keep that in mind when you're putting your logs and cants on the mill. Make sure your bunks are clean, because it doesn't take much to throw it out of whack. There we go. Nice big fat piece of bark underneath there. And as you probably would guess, once your cant is out of whack, it's going to take quite a bit to get it back in whack. So let's drop that down and let's grab the square and see how it looks now. Okay, now we're not as out of square as we were, except now we're a little bit out of square on the top. Not much, again, just a little tiny skosh. And in the scheme of life, is that going to cause a problem? Not really. But again, using the framing square is still my favorite method of doing what needs to be done. So the problem we've got is normally when you're squaring, I don't want to say at this stage, but when you're making your first setup for cutting your first squared edge, you have a little bit of leeway on rotating the log. In this particular case, unfortunately, we don't, because I've already got two sides that are cut that are square. One of the sides is on the bunk, so that makes it not impossible, but very difficult to rotate the log anywhere different than what the bunk is telling it. So let's go down here and we're good. So again, at this particular point, I'm going to say that we're doing fine here, not a big deal, and I'd be happy with this. So let's finish squaring this up, and I want to show you one more thing. I was going to show you the level and all this other stuff, but you don't really need to see that. Again, my opinion, use the framing square that's the most accurate, or an 18-inch magnetized speed square, that'll work. But the idea is the longer you can make the legs on your square, the more accurate it's going to be. Okay, so let's get this cant squared up, and I want to show you something you'll find quite amusing. Again, this is absolutely perfect. Now let's make sure we're still good on here. Throw the square up here. Well, look at that. Would you look at that? You're about to go mobile so you can see better, so bear with me. Okay, you see that I just made that little tiny veneer cut, and you're not going to believe this because of all the screw-ups I do. That was on purpose. See what we got here. Let's throw our square back up after we have that perfectly square cant before, and we make our cut, and we're not square any longer. Now you're going to say, well, how can that be? Because it was square when we started. Well, what happened was I took the log rests and lowered them all the way down, just like you would normally do when you get a nice square cant with a sharp corner. But I kept my clamp quite high, and what it's done, if you can see right here, it's pushed the cant over, so we've got a gap down here. And obviously a gap down here throws it out of square. So even if you have everything set up perfectly, you've made a perfectly square cant and everything else, You can still mess it up if you're not careful with how you make your clamping procedures, and also to make sure that you don't have some kind of material, bark, sawdust, koala bear, something like that between the bunk and your cant to throw it out of square. So I'm going to have to take another cut off of here so I can try to rescue a little tiny bit of good lumber off of this cant.